Welcome to the Think for Yourself Clubhouse. Today we are interviewing three representatives of the City of Jackson: Mayor Randy Evans, Executive Assistant Tracy Plants, and Citizen Advocate Amanda Crabtree. With me at the table is my co-host Dennis Reinhardt. We're going to talk about the City of Jackson and the upcoming vote concerning the municipal income tax. The first series of questions we're going to have, Mayor, concerns city operations, and we're going to do the special fund operations first and then the general fund operations. And one item that most folks in this city get is electric. So you have an electric department. As I understand it, in general terms, the electric department purchases electricity wholesale and sells it retail, and then maintains the apparatus. Would that be fair to say?
Well, we do have our electric department, which makes us a little unique for small cities. Not very many small cities have that, and we think it's a big advantage for us. But we don't actually buy electric wholesale. We actually own production electricity generation. Many years ago, the city invested into and our part ownership of several different power producing plants. And we're in a co-op called AMP. It used to be AMP Ohio. I think it just goes by AMP now. But we're part of a co-op of a large group of small cities, kind of like us, where we actually own and operate our own power plants.
Then AMP used to be AMP Ohio. I keep
Yes.
saying it myself.
Yep.
They're the outfit that helped the City of Jackson acquire
Yes.
Greenup Dam.
Yep.
And that would be Ohio River generation, water power generation,
Yep.
clean power.
Mm-hmm.
And one Ron Speakman was instrumental in that, and Tom Evans. By way of interest, Ron was a strong Democrat, and Tom was a strong Republican, and they worked together to do something that even now is benefiting the City of Jackson through its electric department.
Yep.
How many employees, Mayor, does the electric department have?
We have either 6 or 7. I forgot to look that up. I think we have 5 linemen, 4 or 5 linemen,
Yeah.
three tree trimmers that are part of the electric department that can assist the linemen, and then a foreman there over that group.
Okay. And everybody gets the electric bill. Is that how that department is funded, purely through the electric bill?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Each of our utility funds, or often called enterprise funds, are to be ran like a separate business, and they're to fund their services and only their services. Our water department, our sewer department, our garbage even, and our electric, each are separate little businesses. The revenue they bring in funds their operations, and that's it. It's not supposed to fund other operations, other general fund types of operations.
But from day to day, when people go about their daily business, flush the toilet, City of Jackson. Turn the light on, City of Jackson.
Yep. Yep.
Get a glass of water out of the tap, City of Jackson.
Yep.
Okay.
That's why we are a city. I mean, that's the whole purpose of a government like a small city.
Yeah, we're going to get into the legitimacy of local government in a
Yep.
little bit and the necessity for funding it adequately.
Yep.
With respect to the sewer department, you maintain the sewer pipes in the sewer plant.
Yep. We have our own sewer plant out at the end of Wood Avenue, and treat our own sewer. Yes.
Now, when I was somewhat involved in city affairs, the sewer plant and the sewer department generally were rather strictly controlled by state and federal regulation. Is that still the case?
Yes.
So
Yeah,
that,
everything
for
we do,
example,
I think, is-
there are techniques for purifying sludge, and then it's released into the nearby water stream, right?
Yep.
And the effluent is tested periodically
Yes.
to make sure that
Daily.
to
Yes.
make sure that the process was efficient and effective. And that's all established by state regulation and federal regulation. You guys open up a book and this is what you have to follow.
Is it the EPA?
It's the high EPA for the
Yeah.
most part.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. The reason I say that is regulation sometimes gets a bad reputation. Too many regulations. There aren't too many regulations for the sewer plant. They have to operate that. Now, I'm sure that sometimes locals can get a little frustrated with the state, but in general, regulation of that type is just the way that business is run.
Yes.
Okay.
It'd be a whole lot easier to get rid of that sewer, though, if there wasn't any regulations.
It'd be very unpleasant. Salt Lick Creek would
Then you'd have other
reeking,
problems
yeah.
because we'd all be sick.
Yeah, I'm thinking about how many diseases you're preventing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the exact same thing goes for the water, for the sanitary water, the drinking water.
Yeah.
You know, you want it to.
We were just talking about, you know, you can go and see these cemeteries, how many children, you know, monuments are there, and that's because of lack of clean water, you know.
Right.
Waterborne diseases is so prevalent and everything.
Yeah.
And people just take that for granted, you know, and not every place can just turn the faucet on and have drinkable water, you know.
Yeah.
And Hammertown's certainly a very clean source of water up there.
Yeah.
It really is.
Trash pickup, same thing. How many employees do you have? How many trash trucks?
We have 2 that we run, and then a backup, an older backup that we keep, and we run 2 trash pickup routes a day with 2 people each. So we have 4 people each day running trash.
Maybe, Mayor, do you happen to recall how much a trash truck costs?
New, upwards of $400,000 for a new garbage truck.
And how long do they last?
5 to 10 years, depending on how much they're used.
Sure, yeah. And they're used a lot.
Yeah, every day.
That's the whole purpose for having them.
We use them every
You're
day.
all day,
involved in
every day.
recycling too.
Yep.
And,
We're not directly involved in recycling. We have the recycling bins
Oh, okay.
for citizens to use, but they're actually placed there by the solid waste district. We give them a place to set them.
Okay.
But we're not directly involved in that.
That would be a complicated thing to be responsible for.
It is.
I
It's
think.
recycling is not it's not a money making business.
No.
But it's a good thing to do.
Yeah.
But it's not a money making business.
Never has been.
Never has been.
Yeah,
And probably maybe someday it will be.
I doubt that.
Probably not. Probably not.
There's no gold in trash. Even regardless of what they used to say, there's no gold in trash. All right. Now, have another overlook at the way the money flows. We've talked so far about special funds. The utility departments, each utility department has its special fund. You call it enterprise fund.
Yep.
Citizens can see that on the utility bill. That's where the money goes into those special funds. Now, a special fund cannot slop over its money into the general fund, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. There are occasions when somebody else will give the city of Jackson a grant, for example, to extend sewer lines or to upgrade sewer lines, things like that. So some of the money coming in would be grant money, and you may be able to talk about some of that in a little bit.
Yep. We'd love to.
Okay. And when I was working in the city, every once in a while they'd have a bond financing in which you actually borrow money using the utility rate paying as the source of the payback, so that you're able to borrow money, get the cash, build the improvement, and pay the bond over time. Sometimes those are called revenue bonds. All right.
And we still have some of those that aren't paid off yet.
Right. Yeah.
We don't have any new ones.
And as I recall, that the bonding company will set up a mortgage on the utility system. So
Yep.
everybody's got a real incentive to pay those buggers off.
Yep.
All right. Let's get to general fund expenditures. And this is where kind of the action is at the moment, I think, Mayor. And one of the places where the action is at the moment is your police department. One of the reasons that you felt you needed to have an income tax was to fund the police department. Do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. The police department has to be funded out of the general fund. None of these other funds we've talked about can fund the police department. And we don't have a police levy, to get there. So, and the police department takes in upwards of $2 million a year to operate like we operate it now. at the size we have it now, which is smaller than it used to be, but still adequate to provide adequate coverage.
How was the police department when the income tax first began?
Well,
Just prior to income tax time.
there were several people that had left, and we were issuing layoffs, and it was down to Tracy, about six people or something like that.
Chief and 6 officers.
Yeah, something like that. We were down, and we wasn't trying to fill any positions because we didn't have funding for it.
Is there a
Just
best
prior to the
practices rule, Mayor, and I don't know whether there is or not, best practices rule for the level of staffing in the City of Jackson Police Department?
Yeah, there is. And in general, not just Jackson, based on population and all that. And we think that actually just prior to me becoming mayor, they had downsized the police department and set limits on how. And I feel like we're about right size. We can provide round the clock coverage, at least somewhat minimal around the clock coverage with the staffing we have.
How many officers then would that be?
We have 12 police officers plus the chief, plus our dispatching.
That gives you round-the-clock coverage?
Yes, that
Okay.
gives us round-the-clock coverage. Obviously, if you talk to the police department, they'd like to have more, but it's a matter of that balance between what we can afford and what we should afford to provide adequate police protection for our
And
little town.
if you go below that level, if you had to cut positions,
Yes.
then you're not going to be effective like you are now.
Right.
There's going to be gaps in
Right.
coverage.
There's going to be
Yes,
gaps
yeah.
in coverage if we go much smaller than we are. The police department at one time, prior to me, me being here as mayor, was sizably larger, and at that, it just becomes expensive too. Everything you can. I feel like we're in the right size now. It can be too big.
But you
it can be
can't
too
go any
small.
lower, right?
I think we're at a basic level to provide the coverage we want.
Yeah.
And I think our statistics show that we're doing a good job, but the police department's doing a good job.
I was going to ask you about the statistics. Do you have any metrics or measures? I think perhaps
Yes, we do.
Amanda might
We
have done a report on that.
Yeah,
Yes.
I do. I just want to point out that in every metric in terms of dispatch calls, every metric, the reports are down, except for one, which is animal complaints, which I'm not quite sure why that has increased. But if you look at just specifically breaking and entering calls, those are down 69%. Burglary is down
Since 21.
89% since 2021.
A call is when somebody picks up the phone and calls to the police
Calls to the
station, I have a
station.
problem.
That's
Yep.
correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
And we can infer that if you have better coverage, you have fewer calls because you have fewer people out there looking to do bad things, or they'll go someplace else.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I just want to point out too that drug overdoses calls are down 72%, and that is a direct result of the drug traffic and the drug sales that are happening in the city too.
Can you explain that, Amanda? I don't understand.
Yeah. So let me see here. Narcotics complaints are down 71% as well, and the city has done a really good job at cleaning up a lot of the drug houses that were in town. There were a lot of drug sales happening in those drug houses, people who were overdosing too. And so they've really cracked down on that. They have gotten rid of a lot of them. I would say probably, I don't know of any left in the city. You may be able to speak to that, Mayor, but
If there's any left, we're going after them.
that's right.
Because
So
that's what, once I became mayor, and sorry to interrupt you, I'll get right back to you in a minute. Once I became mayor, and then we got Chief Hinch in there, him and I were on the same page. If there's drug activity in this town, we're going after them. And we busted a lot of homes that were drug activity. And, I just, whatever we got to do, I don't want them in this town. And we've ran most of them off, frankly. And it makes a better city.
it does, and I don't know that anybody in Jackson has not been affected by the drug epidemic. Anybody in Southern Ohio that hasn't
Every
been
family
affected.
is affected
Every
by it.
family has been
Yeah.
affected. I have friends who are teachers, and they talk all the time about grandparents who are raising their children or their grandchildren, the number of students who no longer have parents because of drug overdoses. And it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem across Southern Ohio. But the fact that we are trying to clean up the town and that the police department has really made this a priority and getting rid of some of these drug houses where the sales are happening, I think is
It
huge.
may be that the drug activity is going out of outside the city limits. Quite possibly that's what's happening, but at least as far as the
It's
city
not
is
happening
concerned,
here.
you feel
Right.
like you're doing your job.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. And you've got some numbers to back that up.
Yep.
Fire department, we had a discussion of this in our prep session. Mayor, what does volunteer mean when you have a volunteer fire department in the city of Jackson?
Well, it means basically just what it says. I mean, there's probably an official definition of volunteer, but I didn't look it up. But it means that they don't have to respond to a call. They're not paid to respond to a call. They're just volunteers.
I thought there was a call-out fee.
There's a call-out fee. There's what's it called?
A stipend.
Yeah, stipend pay, I think they call it.
It's just
They get paid to reimburse for their costs, for their fuel of getting to a fire and their laundry or whatever, because they get, keeping their stuff, their gear clean and all that. So they get a stipend for making a call, but they're not paid by the hour or paid, they get a small stipend call and they might be there all night.
Stupid question, who buys a fire truck?
The city.
City buys a fire
Yeah.
truck.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Any idea how expensive one of those
Oh,
new ones?
a new, well, there's a lot of different types of fire trucks. A small brush fire truck is not, real expensive. But the average fire truck that like a city like us would use on most of their call outs for whether it's a fire, a traffic accident, whatever, it starts out at about $800,000 for a new fire truck.
Now, is that the one with the ladder on it?
Nope, the ladder truck, a ladder truck can get closer to $2 million.
That's what I
Gee
thought.
whiz.
Yeah, for a ladder truck. And our ladder truck, I was just told, is over 20 years old. And it honestly, it needs replaced. And that's probably a $2 million truck today. And we actually, our first run truck is due to need replaced. And not only is that probably $800,000 to $1 million, it's also about 3 years out from when you order it to when you get it.
I've read that.
Yeah.
That it's hard to get a
So
fire truck these days.
that's one of the things we've been working with is maybe trying to get an order in for the next one because we already need it.
And now, do you pay for the training of the volunteer firemen?
We do. We pay for their training, and they are considered volunteers, although we do give them a stipend pay for not all calls, but most calls.
Then are there regulations for training and certification and so on?
Yeah, you gotta, there's different levels of training, and to be active in a fire, you have to reach at least the first level of training, and then, at some point, you can be a fully trained firefighter.
So that would be another example of useful regulation.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
All right, let's move on to street and alley. How many employees do you have street and alley?
We kind of, our street and alley we call it a city services group now because it's kind of all one big department and we share employees. But there's actually 8 that works on our streets and alleys and parks. We have 8 employees that do that. Then kind of a sublet under that same services department is our garbage, our people who run garbage, and our maintenance garage, which is right there in the same building where we do maintenance on all our own vehicles and equipment. So we kind of run that all as street and alley.
And again, we've talked about people drawing a glass of water. We've talked about people flushing the toilet to get in your car and you drive on the street, right?
Yep.
And I think over the past several years, that's what people have noticed in the city of Jackson. I've heard it time and time again. Well, the streets are nicer. And I notice I go home and I see a new sidewalk on Morton Street. It's wonderful for those folks to have a sidewalk to walk to the store.
How much
They
have
haven't had.
materials gone up since you've been mayor for fixing streets, asphalt, those sorts of things?
Since 2019, most things, materials and labor have at least 50% up. At least 50%. Some things have doubled. But it's a whole different world today than it was 5-6 years ago.
And I don't think a
It
lot of
really is.
people see that, or they
Yeah.
don't take that into account.
Yes.
How much prices go up for asphalt, for
Yeah.
anything, you know?
It's still. I mean, I still get sticker shock every day on something.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, and so does the general public. Even you go out to eat at a restaurant, even you know,
Yeah.
it's sticker shock compared to a few years ago on just about anything.
Okay, well, let's move on to recreation. The city maintains a recreation department still.
Yep.
When I was growing up, the kids hung out at the swimming pool. Is that still the case?
Jackson is fortunate to still have a really nice swimming pool, and we've been taking great care of it. We, through Tracy's efforts, we've got several grants over the last 5 years to make improvements at the pool. You know, a lot of little towns like us don't have that facility anymore, and we have a nice one, and we've maintained it nice. Each year since I've been here, we've made improvements up there too. You know, we've added. We've improved the old basketball courts. We've added improved lighting. We've added pickleball courts onto the basketball courts. We've added additional playground equipment. We enlarged and repaved the parking lot. We put new fencing around a lot of the areas. Built another shelter house up there by the kiddie pool. Every year we've made improvements at the city pool. As that's just such a nice facility that we have.
And you provide supervisory staff?
Yep, we hire about I don't know 16 or 18 young, usually high school or college age employees to staff it every summer. It's not a money maker. It actually is a money loser, but it's a service we provide and one that we're very happy to be able to provide.
And it's taken advantage of by a lot of
It is.
people.
Yeah,
It
if I
is.
may suggest,
Yep,
it's
it
money
is.
well
Yeah.
spent there.
Yep,
Yeah,
there's
good for
times
you.
you'll go up there in the summer and it's full.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I love seeing it that way. And we'll see people full on the skateboard. You know, we'll see kids using the skateboard park. I just come by there last night, and the basketball court had probably 10 or 12 kids out there playing on it. I don't use the facility myself, but I'm really glad the city has it and able to provide it.
Just the benefit of having something to do, you know, because
Yep.
if kids do not have something to do,
Yep.
there's sometimes problems that are created by that.
Yep.
So that serves a really good purpose in that regard also. Yeah.
I drive around town, I see lots of softball fields around. Do you still maintain the softball fields?
We do, and we partner with a group to help us maintain them that kind of runs the youth rec league for softball and
Is that
baseball.
Chad or?
That's called the Big Red Diamond Club,
Okay.
and there's several members that have been doing a great job running that. When I became mayor, that kind of whole program was down a little bit, and the Big Red Diamond Club formed and stepped up and have done a really nice job of running a youth recreation for softball and baseball for the young
So you're able
kids.
to maintain a cooperative effort with
Yep.
the citizenry there.
Who maintains those ball fields?
We help them with maintenance, and we do the big improvements and care. But they do a lot of work of the final details. I mean, they keep these fields, the ones that they use, and they don't use all of them, but the ones they use, they keep in really nice shape. I mean, we don't have the best facilities around for ball fields. We just don't have a place for it really. But what we have is very well maintained, especially over there at the High Street parks.
Oh yeah, you drive past the High Street fields, and when it's season,
Yep.
there are parents all over the place, kids all over
Yep,
the
and that's
place
all
there.
volunteers.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all volunteers. Of course, it's parents of the kids for the most part, but they've been doing a great job. Certainly, it's hard to find people to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And the parents are the only ones that really care enough to do it well. And we've been lucky to have a good set of parents that are involved in doing that. And same way with the basketball. The city used to have a rec basketball league, and it's all ran by a private group now, and is all held up at the field house up at the high school. So it's a great facility to have it at. They have games up there every Saturday morning during season, and it's all volunteer too. What's it called? Amanda? What's the group that runs that?
The basketball league.
Yeah, the youth basketball league.
Jackson Youth Basketball
Youth
League.
basketball, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
JYBL, yeah.
Some of the school administrators even have been very helpful Some of them have young kids, been very helpful in getting that set up
Yeah.
the last several years ago. And it's a really really well run program too, that is open for all Jackson area youth.
Okay?
I'd like to mention something else about Parks and Rec, if I might.
Sure, man.
So the city has been involved in a planning committee or planning grant for Parks and Recreation for a long-term plan, and they had some what would you call them, Tracy? Some consultants come in and
Yes.
talk to the committee about what the priorities are of the city. They actually took it to the public and they asked for public input. So during one of the Thursday night events, they were open at the Marquee, and they invited people to come in and to give their opinions on what they would like to see with the city of Jackson in terms of parks and recreation. And one of the things that we have learned out of this project is that the city of Jackson has more acreage for parks and more just the sheer number of parks than any other city of our size really in Ohio that they could find. So there's a lot that we have. There's a lot that we'd still like to have, and I think Mayor Evans wants to see those things too, but one of the biggest things assets we have is Hammertown Lake. We've not only is it our reservoir, but also there's a lot of acreage out there and like 12 miles of hiking trails
And horse
trails.
Yes.
And we have, the Horseman Association uses it regularly. They bring people in from all over, not just the state, but all over the country, come there to use those horse trails, and they're great for hiking too. And people can go out there and fish, and the city has to maintain all of that.
Now, didn't they just put in like a handicap kayak launching?
Yep.
Did the city provide that, or?
Yep, Tracy could talk about that, but yeah.
Yes, we were able to get a couple different grants actually for the installation of the boat ramp and a kayak launch that is handicap accessible. So we are trying to and continue. We actually have a couple of grants out right now that are pending for possible trail improvements, which there's several groups in town, Amanda's involved with, that are trying to support, some of the outdoor recreational opportunities such as trail improvements. So those were great assets. We were able to improve at Hammertown. We were able to resurface the parking lot out there as well. We've really been trying to improve our parks. And in addition to Hammertown, we're also trying to bring improvements to the Harding Avenue Eddie Jones Park as well. We've been working again with consultants on studying the flooding issue.
I thought that
affects
park was
Nice.
designed to flood, Tracy.
Well,
Being serious about that it was designed to be well drained so that when you had the periodic floods, that the floods would drain rapidly.
But it's a natural wetland too.
Yeah.
If you walk back the path, the asphalt path there, you can see, the vegetation and everything, that was a wetland that they decided, they were going to make a park. And I've often thought it would be nice if you could develop something with that, like a boardwalk or something through that wetland,
Yeah, they're then planning
that
that,
wetland
yeah.
area, and you get somebody to come in and identify different plants and things like that.
Now, is that where they used to have circuses back in the old days?
I don't know.
As I remember, that was over off of State Street,
Yeah.
over by Davis Church.
Let's move along. Back in the old days, Mayor Burley Euler used to say, well, boys, you rake the leaves and you cut the grass up at the cemetery before Memorial Day, or we all lose our jobs. And it's been done that way ever since. So the city of Jackson does operate a municipal cemetery, Mayor?
Yes, a large one.
Yeah, Fairmont Cemetery.
Yep.
And you have personnel work up there?
We have 2 full-time staff out there to maintain the premises, and then we hire several, usually 2, 3, 4 in the summer to help with mowing and weed eating to keep it looking nice.
Yeah, okay.
And we've struggled with that for the first couple of years of my administration, and we had to start paying that summer help more to get. In the last couple of years, I think we've done a really good job up there.
And if anybody has any inquiries about cemetery matters, I think you have a full-time sexton. They call him a sexton.
We don't call it that anymore.
Oh.
I know they used to. We just have, and I don't really know what was different about that, but we have a foreman out there full time.
Foreman, okay.
Yep. And then another worker out there all the time. And then administratively, some of that work comes into the utility office to handle with, with buying and selling of lots or transferring of lots out there. But it's never closed. So,
The last place they'll let you down, never mind that.
they're dying to get there.
I think a lot of people.
That'll do.
I think a lot of people go there to walk.
They do.
They do.
You know.
They do,
Yes,
yeah.
they do.
Yep.
They do.
Yeah.
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 It is really pretty.
And we've,
out there.
we've done improvements out there too. I mean, it's like we've paved all the streets out there. They're not very wide streets, but we've paved every street in the cemetery, and we're planning an expansion of more space out there. As you go in on the right, there's a hillside that's part of the cemetery, but it's never been developed. We're planning in the next couple of years to develop it to make available space as the rest of it fills up,
That's good.
and it is filling up.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're planning ahead there too.
Okay, we're going to move into some techie stuff now. I think we want to set aside the special funds and the special enterprises. That would be what shows up on the utility bill.
Mm-hmm.
Set that to one side. And the rest of the stuff, starting with police department, is so-called general fund. And general fund is the big pot of money that the city has to pay for all this stuff. And I'm sure there are lots of various sources of money that's paid into this general pot. My first question is if you folks can characterize for me the sources of the money going into the general fund. Tracy, perhaps you could help a little bit on that?
Well, there are some various taxes that go into the general funds. There are, unlike the special funds, which are taxes or funds that are for a special purpose, for a specific purpose. The money that comes into the general fund, such as like the real estate tax, for example, a liquor tax. There's some state funding that comes in.
Now, when we were talking to the school district, they explained that the real estate tax was, do you remember, Dennis, 40% of the general fund budget?
Yeah,
What would do you have any notion of the percentage or the significance of the real estate tax in the municipal budget?
I would probably want to check with our auditor's office and get back with you on that specific.
Way less than,
but-
way less
Oh yeah,
than
we,
that.
we get like a little over $500,000 from our real estate tax. We don't get a big chunk of money.
Okay,
so
so
that
it's-
doesn't go very
It's
far.
It's
That's
just
the main
not like the
source,
school
yeah.
district.
No, we
All
get
right.
a very small amount of that. They get the big chunk of the real estate taxes. Schools do.
Go ahead, Tracy. Simpson.
So then, with those sources of revenue essentially into the general funds, we do have the flexibility then, unlike the special funds, to spend those funds on, what we've just been going over: cemetery, recreation, the pool, the police department, would be under that, and then of course, with that being the only source of funding for the police department, that would be a very bare bones
Yeah.
police.
You get some
force.
money from the state, do you?
Yeah, like 200,000. Not very much.
All right. Sales tax?
Sales tax is even less. Tracy, you know what that is?
It's just a little over 300,000, but that actually does not go into the general fund, if I understand correctly. That is specifically used for capital improvements. The
Yeah,
sales
our
tax.
share of that sales tax has to be used for
Yes.
and so it goes to the street and alley department basically.
Okay.
Yeah,
Gasoline tax?
very small amount. You know what that is, Tracy?
I don't have the dollar amount, but I know that does go to street and alley.
Yeah, it's not much.
I always sold candy bars in the summer at the pool. When I was a high schooler, the recreation concessions would probably go into the general fund. All $1.75 of it.
Yeah, like the concessions at the pool was just ran part of the pool enterprise itself,
Sure.
and it's not even a break even. But
Yeah.
we don't lose a lot of money there, but it helps it try to break even.
Yeah. And you have grants that come in. Would they be mostly ad hoc or specific purpose grants that come in?
Just about all our grants are specific purpose, but we've had tremendous luck in the 5 years, and Tracy heads that up, of getting grants. and grants are great. I mean, it's still tax money. I mean, all the money is tax money that any government spends. It's all tax money from somewhere. So when we get grants, it's tax money from other places, or our tax money that goes out coming back. So we've really pushed to get grant money, and we've been very successful. How much? I mean, you can tell them how much we've gotten the 5 years we've been here.
Yeah, since 2021, we've received over $23 million in grant funding.
Okay, we're going to go through some of those projects and where the money went in a second. And it's kind of an interesting story, Mayor. The easy answer, I think, is it goes into the infrastructure projects that you've been talking about. And that kind of brings us to income tax. How important is the income tax to the general fund picture?
I mean, it's changed our city. I don't know how to give it its true importance, but we could, that $23 million worth of projects that we've been able to get grant money to do, we couldn't have done without the income tax money. Most of those grants take match money, and or a lot of those grants are just for specific purposes. For example, they'll do part of the project, and then we got to use our tax money to finish the project, and then and that's on the infrastructure. When we ran the income tax, and from the beginning, we've kind of considered it a 50-50 between infrastructure and police. And on the infrastructure side, we wouldn't be able to take those grants if we didn't have the money to go with them and help to finish them. And on the police side, we have less than $1 million of general fund revenues other than the tax. And it takes over $2 million to run a police department.
So what would you say the percentage that does the income tax account for as far as the money available to do what you have to do?
General fund, 4/5.
Yeah, I was getting that
80%.
80%.
Yeah, round numbers.
Now, when
I'm a
was
round
the-
numbers guy because we have an auditing department to fine tune all this.
right,
I'm a
right.
round numbers
Yeah.
guy, but yeah, we'll get less than $1 million of general fund money from other revenues, and then $4 million from the income tax.
There's a whole different story about how and when the income tax was first successfully adopted, but when would that have been, Mayor? What year would that have been? How long has it been on?
Well, for us, it was 20. We ran it in 20 and got it passed 2020. So it started in 21.
So what are we talking, 4 or 5 years,
This is the 5th year of it.
5th year of it?
Yep, this is the 5th.
And that was done by a vote of the city residents?
Yes.
I think there was kind of a consensus in the community that if you're going to have one of these things, you ought to do it by vote of,
Right.
of the residents,
Right.
vote at the poll. And what percent is the current tax?
It's a 1.5%.
And the tax is on people pay it who live here or work here?
Yes.
And if you live here and work outside the city, then it's the outside income that's reported, but there's a credit for what they have to pay to the other municipality. Is that the way that works?
Yes. If you work at another city that has an income tax, you have to pay it first where you work. So we'll give them up to 1%. Like there's a lot of cities around us that are paying 2 or even 2.5% income tax. So if they have to pay that where they work. And then we'll give them up to a 1% credit, so that they only have to pay 0.5% of our 1.5%.
And if there are folks that live outside the city and work here, they have to pay what, 1.5%?
They have to pay 1.5%. Yes.
Okay.
And the people that live outside the city and come here to work pay 1.5%.
Okay.
Yep.
Like me, I live outside the city. Amanda now lives outside the city, I think. These people, I guess they don't get a vote, but they got to pay the tax.
Yeah, that's how it works.
On the other hand, they take advantage of the toilet and the
Yeah, they
All the
use one of the
services
that are
that they use, that's right.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Okay. And I think we've been through how does the city spend the income tax money. I think you indicated your general concept was a half for the police department, a half for infrastructure.
Yep.
And you told the story when we had our prep session of you were able to mix the income tax money with grant money. and did some specific projects. I think you mentioned one that you enjoyed was Pickletown project.
Yeah, we call it the Mill Street area,
All
but
right.
that neighborhood over there had been, neglected for a long time, and we had homes over there that didn't have city sewer. We had homes. The whole neighborhood had inadequate water. There wasn't fire hydrants over there, so they didn't have fire protection. And through grant money, backed up with income tax money, we've completely redone that neighborhood over there, from Morton Street, to Chillicothe, and actually Athens Street, even in that area
Athens Street,
where we
yeah.
have from Athens to Morton, I guess is more.
Yeah.
They have new water lines now. We enlarged them, so we have fire hydrants over in that neighborhood now. Sewer to every is available to every house over there now. City sewer. Some of them are on city sewers. Some of them are on out to the creek. But water, all the water lines and all the sewer lines in that entire neighborhood now are new, and that was all through grant funds that we free money to the city of Jackson to do that with. But in the process of doing that, you tear up all the streets, which were already in bad condition anyway. But with the income tax money, we were able to then repave all those streets, and we did. And it's like it's all new over there. And then in areas where there had been sidewalks, like Morton Street, there were sidewalks there, but they were in terrible condition. We replaced all the sidewalks. We replaced all the curbs. We planted trees up and down both sides of Morton Street. I mean, we just really rebuilt that neighborhood as far as the city infrastructure goes.
Didn't you replace a water line that was like 100 years old that was...
We just replaced this past year the main water line up and down South Street. That was 123 years old. Yes.
And what had happened to it?
I think you told a story about the diameter of
Did
the
I tell that?
inside
Yeah, you were telling that.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
People would like to hear that.
I'm not allowed to show those pictures anymore. But you get a water line that's a big water line, but the actual water flow through it's like this big because it's full of other stuff clinging to the inside of the pipes on the rest of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's from 100+ years of use.
Yeah.
Now, this is stuff that's out of sight, but it's necessary to get done.
It is, and we've replaced quite a few water lines and sewer lines in the 5 years we've been here, but they all need it.
Yeah.
It's every water line and sewer line, if we haven't replaced it in the last 5 years, it probably needs it. Same way with street paving and curbs and sidewalks. We've done a lot in the last 5 years, but all the rest of it needs it too. My thought coming in was it was going to take 10 years to do it all. I'm really not even sure we can get it all done in 10 years. But whenever we do, it'll be time to start over. Because water lines and sewer lines will last longer than that, but pavement really doesn't. A good paving upkeep is about every 10 years you're replacing the surface. I mean, even ODOT does it that often or more often than that.
Well, Mayor, all this is leading up
Yeah.
to the fact that you're going to be asking voters to approve another income tax.
Yes.
And this time it's to be an indefinite or continuing income tax
Continuing.
without a time limitation on it. Is that
Yes.
Is that so?
Yes. And when we ran it in 2020, we put it on there for 5 years, kind of as a gimmick, but not really as a gimmick because that's not normally done. Usually you either have an income tax or you don't. With all the other cities in the state and most villages, frankly, have one. But we thought, there had been a previous attempt to get an income tax that had failed at the ballot. Then there was one that was imposed by council that then got removed on the ballot. So there wasn't a good history for an income tax in Jackson. But I had been able to determine that we had to have that money if we were going to clean up and fix up Jackson, which is what my campaign was all about when I ran for mayor. So we thought, well, let's put it on for 5 years. Let's show the people what we're doing with it, and let's convince the people that we're using it exactly like we said we were going to and like we planned to. And then they'll see that they'll like what they see, and they'll just put it on then, and that's our goal. Most income taxes, when they're put on, they're just put on and they stay on until they're removed. I don't like the word permanent, but it's continuing. It stays on there until it's removed. It can be removed by the ballot the same way. And Jackson had one removed prior to me being mayor. It was put on by council, imposed they call it, and then the voters removed it. So Jackson knows how to do that. So if it comes to time down the road they don't like the way it's being spent or the way it's being handled, they can remove the income tax.
And you will continue to have the mental idea that half for the police department and half for infrastructure?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that,
It doesn't say that on the ballot language, that it's 50-50, but that's our intent, and that's how we need it. We need half of that revenue to run a nice police department. And of course, we could use all of it for infrastructure and keep fixing things up and keep making things even nicer. But that's kind of the balance where I feel like it needs to be.
well, I think the people told you loud and clear they wanted the police department.
Yes.
And that's what you did.
Right.
Okay.
And we have a very nice. I think we have the right size. We have it very well staffed. It's very well managed, and the statistics show that it's working. And we want to continue that.
And how many total miles of pavement is there to do in the city of Jackson? 50 miles?
Close to
about?
that. Yeah.
And you've succeeded in paving 20 so far?
20 some.
20 some?
Yeah.
Okay.
6.
Yeah,
So-
maybe.
so about
I think
half?
we're about halfway in 5 years.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I mean, if
So
when
it's-
somebody thinks
it's-
about the number of miles in the city of Jackson, you wouldn't think that there's 50 miles of paving to do here, but
plus
it's a
parking
lot.
lots, plus parking lots
Right.
and stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a
so-
lot.
Yeah, well, one response to why do you have a continuing income tax is you have continuing needs. You
Exactly.
simply do.
The police department's going to continue that. We want to
Absolutely.
keep it like it is. We don't want to drop it down to the way it was.
And you got that fire department, that truck.
Yep.
I don't know if it's going to have a ladder.
Well, I mean, the needs are great. I mean, the needs are just tremendous, and we're meeting some of them. And we're trying to do that very efficiently
And I wanted to
and very
mention
responsibly.
to the police department, it's not just the bodies that we've employed, it's the fact that they now have body cams. They have bulletproof vests. They have been to SWAT training. They have had additional training that they haven't been able to do before because you can't send somebody to training and leave the post unmanned. So, now they have the staff that they can send somebody to training, still have somebody here to take care of business, and then, send them to training later. So there's been a lot of money spent, and also vehicles up to standard, and then equipment in the vehicles as well.
I have one more major topic to discuss, and I like to start this topic by discussing the gentleman whose statue is on the courthouse square. That's Governor James A. Rhodes, a native of Jackson County. Governor Rhodes's mantra was, if you massage or work a problem hard enough, the solution usually comes out to be jobs. People should have jobs so you can have a family, so you can have dignity, you can have a place to go during the daytime, and hopefully enjoy all these facilities that we have in the city of Jackson. So it's kind of economic development. Economic development produces jobs. And I'm going to talk a little bit about economic development in rural southern Ohio and in the city of Jackson. Suppose a company, Mayor and Amanda, I think you're in this business as well. Suppose a company wants to find a location for a new plant, and suppose the city of Jackson wants to invite the company to build its new plant in or around Jackson. What features would the city want to highlight when it makes its pitch to the company?
You want to start, or you just want me?
Well, I think
I'm trying not to do all the talking
first,
here.
I think first of all, when a company comes to visit, goes on what they call a site visit, they will look at the schools. They want to look at the school district to see what it's like. They want to look at the amenities. They want to see if there are parks. They want to see if there are things for spouses to do. They want to see if there are cultural things to do. They want to see if there are activities, and they want to just see how an area is taking care of its residents. And I think that all of those things speak to how Jackson takes care of its residents. And it's the parks and the rec and those things, but also just the streets. Are they taking care of the sidewalks? Are they taking care of the streets? And if a city is taking care of its own, it's going to take care of that company that's thinking about coming there too.
Yes, and of course a willing workforce, and Jackson's always had a willing workforce, always had close by medical care, good schools. And when I was in the city biz, one that was kind of advantageous to new plants coming in was if they wanted to talk about electric utility, well, the city owns their own electric plant. So they can say, well, what do you need? What do we have to extend? How much service do you need? Let's sit down and work this out. That's an advantage right there. So all these things come together, and hopefully the result is economic development. Amanda, have we had any successes in economic development lately?
Absolutely. The HERS plant that's coming to Jackson is I think that's a huge win. The space side coming to Jackson, that's another great win. The number of barrels that are produced there every day is amazing, and they are providing barrels all over the world. And
You visited that plant?
I have.
Isn't
I've been there.
that's something, isn't it?
It is pretty amazing. If you have an opportunity to go there and see their production, it's really amazing. But then also, the Hearst plant, they decided to come to Jackson. They were going to make their home here. They were going to have, I think, one line. And now they're not even up and running yet, and they already have decided to expand. So, I think these are great wins for Jackson, and we've got great teams of people that are trying to bring people in, but it's things like the income tax that really help push it over the edge, I think.
Okay, and what we tried to do today was to allow these good folks to make the case for the new income tax, the continuing income tax, which I think they've done quite well doing that. Mayor, is there anything else you'd like to say on the topic?
Well, I just want to add to what Amanda said. When people come to town, or industry or business to look at Jackson, they want to see a nice, clean, well-kept city, and we've done. We've provided that, and we continue to improve on that. And you're right. Having our own electric is a big advantage because when they come and talk to us, we can tell them right then what we got, versus going through the bureaucracy of the big power companies. But also the other utilities, water, sewer. Not only do we have good facilities for that, but we have capacity for additional use, and they have to. We have to be able to provide them water and take their sewer and collect their garbage and provide their electricity, and we're like a one-stop shop. And when HERS come to town, the owner or one of the owners, the HERS family, he was speaking at a recent banquet, and he made the remark, when he come to Jackson and rode around Jackson and met with the city and economic development, the economic development team, he just felt like it was home. He just felt, it just felt good to him, and that's why they decided to come here. And I know other young families that have moved to the Jackson area or inside the city of Jackson, even from surrounding, they just like what they see here. We're progressively cleaning up and fixing up Jackson, and it takes money to do that. And all the services we provide, we're trying to do it efficiently and do a very good job of it. And we think we're being successful there. Specifically to the income tax, I want to say it's a whole different city if we don't have the income tax. It's a whole different police department. It's barely a police department rather than a top shade police department like we have without the income tax. Without the income tax, we're not paving streets every year like we are and fixing curbs and sidewalks. That all is going to come to a stop because we're not going to have the money to do it. We won't be able to apply for grants like we've been so successful getting because we won't have the match money or the money it takes to finish the job. I've said it many times, the income tax has changed Jackson, and it will continue to change Jackson if we have it. But if not, I hate to say it, go back to the old way, but we're going to regress and very quickly on the progress we've been made if we don't continue the income tax. I don't like paying it either, but it's there's only a couple of sources of tax money to do that work with, and that's the one that has been determined not by us but by the state of Ohio that's how you fund these types of things in cities in Ohio. There's really no other good way, and previously the city had tried to fund it other ways because they had to try to do something, and kind of got their hands slapped on it at times. That it wasn't really, you can't use electric funds for other things and those types of things. We're not going to go back to that either. If we don't have the money to provide these services like we've been doing for 5 years now, we're not going to provide them at the level we've been. We just can't, and we're not going to try to do it some other tricky way either. We're just not going to provide them. We're going to do it the right way, or we're not going to do it. And I hope people like what they see that has been happening, and we'll continue the tax. For senior citizens, I don't know why any senior citizen would vote against this tax. Retirement income, Social Security, they're exempt from it. So they get the advantage of all this, their town being fixed up and well kept and well taken care of with no cost to them, basically. And even for the average citizen that lives here, the citizens of Jackson only pay 9% of this revenue that comes in from this tax. The other 92% is paid by people who live outside the city but work in the city or the businesses of the city. It's not the residents. So why would you not vote for that? I don't get it. Especially people who just live here. I mean, they're getting a 9-to-1 return on their money,
While avoiding
for their investment.
while avoiding the rate increases at the same time.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I want to mention that too. We have not raised utility rates since I've been mayor. Water, sewer, garbage, they're all the exact same rates as they were in 2020. It's the same. There were automatic increases that had been enacted by previous council that were in effect. Every year they went up 3%. We removed that. Nothing has raised since I've been mayor. And how do we do that? Because a lot of our infrastructure projects, whether it's water or sewer, we've been getting grant money to do, and using income tax money to help it, rather than taking it out of utility rates. Because that would be the only other way to get it. If we need to replace a water line and we don't have grant money and we don't have tax money, then it's got to come from the water department rates. It's got to come from that fund, unless we have another outside source, being a grant or income tax. So the income tax has helped us keep the utility rates low too.
Okay. My take on this is that local government, controlled by local people, run by local people, just seems to me to be the backbone of the country. If you consider that how hundreds of cities in the state of Ohio, 50 states, all these local people running their own local affairs, doing it very well, I might add, in the city of Jackson. That's what democracy is all about. So when we get down on government, let's take a little bit closer look at what the facts are in our local government, the backbone of the country. Thank you.